Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh, and in my ongoing exploration of everything Overwatch lore and story related, it's time to take a look at more stories behind the skins in this Halloween special. Many of Overwatch's skins have rich historic and cultural references behind them that give some cool background to the lore and stories of our favourite heroes and villains. Some are canon and directly show us things about the characters, most very much aren't, but either way they have some awesome details that I'll be explaining in this series. In this video I'll be taking a look at the spooky story behind Zenyatta's Cultist Halloween skin. Together, we'll be delving into the world of the horrifying cosmic entity Cthulhu and how the themes of Lovecraftian horror fit into Zen's skin, as well as many other things that we enjoy in pop culture today. What are the origins of Zenyatta's monstrous visage? Well, with his head resembling an octopus with tentacles surrounding the mouth, it strongly evokes one school of horror, and that is Cthulhu and the Cthulhu mythos. Now, the short story Call of Cthulhu was published in the American pulp magazine Weird Tales way back in 1928. The work of Howard Phillips Lovecraft. It was actually rejected for publication in the magazine until one of Lovecraft's friends intervened. Lovecraft was not hugely well known during his lifetime, but since his death he has been regarded as one of the most significant writers of horror fiction in the 20th century. And you'll see why this is the case with just how many people and things he's inspired later in the video. Never able to support himself from earnings as an author and editor, Lovecraft lacked confidence and drive to promote himself, and he was very self-critical, which is probably familiar to any of you who create anything. His legacy, however, was a horror universe and a mythos that inspired many writers, musicians, filmmakers, storytellers and artists, and even video game creators today. So what is Cthulhu? Well, in the short story Call of Cthulhu, Lovecraft told the story through a narrator, Francis Wayland Thurston, who, upon looking into notes left behind by his granduncle, including a small relief sculpture of Cthulhu, subsequently gets drawn into investigating and discovering more about this nightmare. The statue itself represented a monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers, a scaly, rubbery-looking body, prodigious claws on hind and fore feet, and long, narrow wings behind. This thing, which seemed instinct with a fearsome and unnatural malignancy, was of a somewhat bloated corpulence and squatted evilly on a rectangular block or pedestal covered with undecipherable characters. Cthulhu is a cosmic entity from beyond our world, a great old one of power that lies in a death-like slumber beneath the Pacific Ocean somewhere in his sunken city of R'lyeh. Now, in Lovecraft's works, one of the characters, Abdul al-Hazred, a mad poet of the Yemen, wrote the most evil document in the world in the Necronomicon, and it's quoted in relation to Cthulhu that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons, even death may die. Now, Cthulhu is worshipped by cultists. It's unknown how large the throng of those who worship him is, but his cult has many cells around the globe in the mythos. It's noted for chanting its horrid phrase or ritual. Here goes a funny pronunciation attempt. Glui Muglanafer Cthulhu R'lyeh Wagnekl Stathan. That apparently translates to "in his house at R'lyeh dead Cthulhu waits dreaming," often shortened to "Cthulhu waits dreaming." Now, apparently at the right time, secret priests would take great Cthulhu from his tomb, revive his subjects, and resume his rule of Earth. Mankind would be free and wild beyond good and evil, with laws and morals thrown aside, and all men shouting and killing and revelling in joys, with the liberated old ones teaching them new ways to do this. So sounds a bit like a chaotic apocalypse. Now, just looking on Cthulhu drives the viewer mad, with potentially superhuman strength, invulnerability or close to, being able to fly, manipulating people's sanity and madness, immortality, telepathy, and manipulating reality. Cthulhu is a fearsome sight to behold. Now, although he's notorious, he's not the most powerful of the Lovecraftian deities, nor is he the theological centre of the Cthulhu mythos that Lovecraft actually created. Instead, this is held by the demon god Azathoth, a mindless but all-powerful god ruling from a cosmically centered court. So, what interesting details in Zenyatta's skin link him into this mythos? Well, there's kind of two. His tentacly face and form, as we've heard from Cthulhu's description, very much fit that, and there's also a reference from the symbol on his back too, the theme of this eye. Now, there's one very direct reference that Warcraft fans and World of Warcraft fans will know. If you compare this symbol to that used in World of Warcraft, then it's quite likely that Zenyatta is, if not meant to be, resembling a cultist of Cthulhu. Now, in the Warcraft universe, Cthulhu is the old god of madness and chaos, one of four ancient and powerful creatures who ruled the Warcraft or World of Warcraft world of Azeroth long ago before being defeated and imprisoned by servants of beings called the Titans. Now, since its imprisonment, Cthulhu created an insectoid race and lived in a city called Ahn'Qiraj in Silithus, until it appeared in World of Warcraft as a final boss in the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj. In the boss fight against Cthulhu, you fight his tentacles, a huge eye, his body, and Cthulhu drops loot to do with the idea of insanity, such as the Dark Edge of Insanity, a theme shared with Cthulhu. As well as being a boss fight that was kind of brokenly hard until it got tweaked a bit by Blizzard, a lot of people remember Cthulhu in Warcraft for this big eye part of the boss, and it's this that you see shown on the back of the Cultist's cloak and what Zen is wearing. As for story parallels, well, not huge ones. In the out-of-universe Halloween comic for Overwatch, this year, Zen's Cultist and Genji answer to a foreboding presence, a force beyond mortal understanding, which certainly fits the cult theme. As for Zen himself, well, I wouldn't say he's in the thrall of any evil power, unless you're a real conspiracy theorist in the Sombra conspiracy, maybe believing that the Iris is some kind of malevolent force at the centre of everything. Unlikely, but who knows? It is interesting though how Zenyatta balances the forces of discord and harmony in his abilities, so he's clearly able to access a more destructive power or force, but keeps it in check. Now, whether this is anything to do with the somewhat mystical centre of meditation in Nepal's Sanctum map or not, who knows? As an Omnic, Zenyatta apparently uses Omnic energy, according to the Collector's Edition Art sourcebook, so he may not be evil, but it's interesting to think about the powers that Zen yields or keeps in check. Okay, we've learnt about the shared history behind the Cultist theme skin. Finally, for some fun, let's have a quick look at where you can see references to both things in things we enjoy today. Well, the Cthulhu mythos and wider works by LoveCraft have influence on so many comics, films, writers, books and games. Here's but a small selection. Stephen King, the masterful horror writer, said that Lovecraft was the 20th century's greatest practitioner of the classic horror tale, and in his semi-autobiographical works he does sort of say that Lovecraft is responsible for his own fascination with horror and one of his biggest figures of influence. Warhammer 40k fans might recognise Cthulhu, as well as having similar names. Cthulhu fought the old ones in that universe too. The name and character of Cthulhu have directly spawned games like Call of Cthulhu if you play your RPGs, and in terms of universes and gods and pantheons, Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder and many other tabletop and role-playing games owe their mythologies, as indeed do other books, to the old gods' pantheon. As for video games, well, Terraria has bosses named after him. The Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Zombie Saga was heavily inspired by Cthulhu. Alone in the Dark, XCOM Terror from the Deep directly has bosses to do with Cthulhu, and many more games from Scribblenauts to the Elder Scrolls either have direct references or characters that are heavily inspired from the universe. Finally, for fun, in the 2010 Polish election as well as the 2012 and 2016 USA presidential elections, Cthulhu has run as a candidate. Generally, people parody it and say that by voting for Cthulhu, you'd be voting for the lesser evil than some of the candidates on offer. Do throw a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Comment below with any skins you'd like to see next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a amazingly ghoulish and also safe Halloween. If you enjoy this kind of thing about Overwatch skin lore, culture and things behind video games, do check out my other Overwatch playlists, lore, interaction, voice lines and more in these playlists here. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.